All right, what's going on, everybody? We've got a podcast that I've been super excited for. Been a long time coming. This guy, I've been wanting to get him on for a long time. Heard him speak several times now. Finally getting him on. He is the number one rep in solar. I don't think there's anyone doing numbers like this guy. So we've got Luke Ward. Thanks for coming on the podcast with us today, Luke.
Hey, thanks for inviting me. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think last time I saw you speak was at Sam's, probably been a couple years now, but Sam's last little boot camp, Sam Taggart's boot camp he did down there in Arizona. And just every time I hear from you, it's like you bring the heat, learn something new, and you just do it year after year after year, never stops. So, I'm excited to hear some secrets, how you've been doing it, and how you stay so consistent.
The big part about the consistency is being bought in. You have to have more certainty than everyone else. And so what we see in the space right now is, what do you see? A lot of uncertainty. People are like, oh, the tax credits, or this is happening, or this is happening, this is happening. And what you find is, I see that people get what they focus on. So if you're focusing on the sky is falling, you're going to find the sky's falling. It's a feedback loop that you'll continuously see. But if you're bought in with certainty, the solar equation, solar makes sense for us, makes sense for them, it makes sense for the utility companies, this universally makes sense for everybody. And you have more certainty than everyone else. You don't buy into whatever's happening. So, and by the way, in this market, you see people, it's always like the sky is falling. So the tax credits was one thing. Before that was another policy makes one thing. The interest rates make one thing. I mean, it's like this ebb and flow. So the solar industry, this isn't new. This has always been going on since I've been in the space. And I'm sure long before I was in the space, it's been happening. So I'm bought in just with more certainty that this makes sense for customers, especially right now. A large part of my career was doing nothing but loans. Like, I did nothing but loans. I had no lease repertoire, because Arizona is it's a little bit different, challenging market, especially in the utility I sell in. Mainly I sell in SRP, which is like a hybrid system. And so we never did leases because we didn't have the battery attachment. But I truly feel right now is the best time ever to go solar. It's never been better. You can have energy independence with a battery source and a solar system, and eliminate or eradicate a large percent of the bill, sometimes the bill in its entirety, the way that I designed the solar system. So but it's always about what people focus on. So people can focus on the opportunity, or they can focus on the alternative. And so in this space, and you've seen all of the people, all the naysayers and stuff say, oh, it's the sky is falling. And then a lot of times you'll see this huge shift in people, and people are getting ready for next year. The tax credit's going away, and then the year after they're going to go away from the lease agreements. But like, at the end of the day, it's like, are you focused on the opportunity, or are you focused on the problem outcome? Like, I'm focused on the solution outcome, right?
Yeah.
And so I would suggest anybody's listening here today, focus on the solution. If there's one person making millions of dollars, everybody can make millions of dollars. Don't look for the people that are struggling. Look for the people you can model, the people that are actually crushing it. And there are tons of people just absolutely destroying and crushing the solar market, making millions of dollars, helping millions of people, making a lot of impact in the lives of others. And so those are the things I choose to focus on. I choose not to focus on the sky is falling, interest rates, policy, all of these other things are happening. And by the way, too, when the solar tax credit ends, there'll be something else will pop up. I mean, it still makes sense.
Right.
I have more certainty that solar makes sense, whether people save money or not. I'm bought in. You can't convince me otherwise. I can't have a customer convince me otherwise. Can't have anybody convince me otherwise that solar just doesn't make sense, because it makes sense on every single level.
So good. And something I can tell right off the bat, and the times I've seen you speak, Luke, is just the absolute confidence you have. And like you talked about just barely, whatever you focus on is what you're going to get, the thing that's growing. And I mean, you can tell us, but I would say that's probably a huge reason for your success. I mean, even before the show started, I was asking you, what do you want me to kind of introduce you as? And no hesitation, you're like, I'm the number one rep in solar. Introduce me as the top guy in solar. And I'm like, okay, this guy's confident in what he does. And so it's no secret that you're having insane amounts of success, because you go out there, you're confident in the product, you're confident in yourself. And I think that's a huge secret. So how much of that would you say contributes to the success you've had, just your confidence in what you've been able to do?
So the confidence is the transmutation of certainty. So like if you have more certainty than anybody, you're going to win whatever the conversation is. And so like when I'm knocking doors or in front of clients, I have more certainty than them. I have more certainty than their objections. So you can't give me an objection I can't overcome. I can overcome every single objection someone throws at me, right? There's conditions and there's objections. Any single objection I've got an answer to just by probing and asking questions, identifying with empathy, and then coming over and then being able to transition them into a good situation. But if I train a rep and he has confidence and certainty in the value proposition, it's going to be very hard to not have a huge amount of success. And so I've been certain about the solar equation ever since I got into space. So I got into space in May of 2020 during COVID, right? And so like I was absolutely certain this fit in with my values. So my values are, saving money, having certainty, because that's what you're going to get, a better quality of life, and freedom, right? That's the solar equation. So I talked about this before it started. People are not buying solar. They're buying freedom. They're buying independence. They're buying certainty. They're buying peace of mind. And so it's an abstract idea that we're actually selling, which is why some people struggle to sell, because they're not totally bought in to what this actually gives people. I'm 100% bought in. I've been bought in since the very beginning. I got in the solar space. It was just kind of like I owned an alarm company, and I just kind of fell into this because I was had an alarm company in California, and the alarm company in California was shut down during COVID. I met some guys. They were doing their company Christmas party, and I ended up connecting with them, and I have a whole database. I have 9,000 customers, alarm customers in California. And initially I was thinking, oh, well, I'll just sell all these guys solar, right? So that was the whole idea of thinking about it. But once I found the solar space and I saw the equation, how this worked, that we were actually going to get paid for saving people money. We were going to get paid for people giving people freedom and certainty. Like, dude, this is a no-brainer. And so I was full of confidence. It might have been, and I didn't listen. I didn't have the naysayers. The people told me that stuff wasn't possible. So I never had this in my head. A lot of times people will attach themselves to someone else's limiting belief. You can't do this. You can't do this. You can't do this. You can't. And they'll buy into somebody else's limiting belief. It's not even their own. They just bought into somebody else's. And so like I was just on fire about this proposition. And then I went wholeheartedly just in the solar and the alarm business. I still have a guy running a sub dealership, but I don't want to mess with alarms. It's just not the same equation. And not everybody's a good candidate for an alarm system. But let me tell you this, everybody is a good candidate for solar. There's not a single person out there that isn't a great candidate for solar. It's going to fit in with everybody's values, because if I were to ask you the alternative, like, do you want uncertainty? You'd say no. Do you want to give up your freedom? You'd say no. Do you want to give up your quality of life? You'd say no. So the alternative to those is obviously yes. It's a resounding yes. And so people can't convince me, whether I'm at the doors or I'm at the kitchen table. If I'm in front of them, I have way more confidence and certainty than they do at this value proposition. Where I think a lot of reps go bad is they're not certain that they're a good candidate. So maybe you go to some person's house and they're not saving money, and you all of a sudden you get in your head and you're like, oh, this doesn't make sense to them. Why? Wouldn't it be better for them to have absolute certainty and predictability for the next 25 years versus the alternative, uncertainty, not knowing what this bill is going to do, not knowing if the utility grid is going to be stable enough for them to have the power and energy? Not knowing if they go up 80% one year, maybe they go up 90%, maybe a whole lot of uncertainty that they have with it. So where I see people propel and then people kind of deaccelerate is like the people are bought in. And there's people that are bought in, there's people that are not bought in. And this goes back to sell or be sold. Are you going to buy their objections? Are you going to take their limiting beliefs and take them on yourself? Or are you going to be more certain about the value proposition? This isn't about pushing. I don't push. I do not push. But I do assume that everybody wants this. Everybody needs this. And you can't convince me otherwise. In fact, I'll straight up tell people this. I'm like, hey, listen, if you knew what I knew, you would have already done this. You would have already done this. This would be open and closed. You guys have already done this, and I wouldn't be at your house today. If you knew what I knew, you wouldn't be kicking me off your doorstep right now. You'd be asking me to come in and to sign you up because of what we're actually able to deliver. And I'm just open and honest, and I'll tell people straight up. I don't pull any punches. I'm like absolutely forward about things because I'm not trying to like deceptively or tactfully be able to gain their business. I'm trying to do it with just absolute certainty in the value proposition. And so often a bad rep compared to a good rep, a bad rep is uncertain about the value proposition. Maybe they heard from somebody that somebody has a bad solar story. And then what they'll do is they'll choose to focus on someone that had a bad situation. But if you really look down to it, and I'm not saying there's people that have all had great experiences. There's probably some people that have had some bad experiences. But if we look down into it, you have to be able to find the positive in all those situations. And I find the positive in the majority of the solar situations, whether people bought high or bought low. And by the way that I sell solar is the way that I value price, quality, and service. I'm not trying to hit a home run off every deal. So there's some people that work for me that they're hitting a home run on every single deal that they're charging this max price per watt. I don't do that. I sell like I buy. So I give really good value. So my PPW isn't high. I don't have to hit a home run because I have a multitude of deals coming through. I'm one of abundance, and I'm one that's like, I want to give these people a fair deal, a good value deal, more than a fair deal, a good value deal. And so it's just the way that I position myself in what I'm able to offer these people. And by the way, you say like the other thing with the certainty and the confidence is like knowing what I'm able to deliver. So no one's more educated than me. No one's going to design you a system better than me. You might find a way cheaper price, but you're going to get what you pay for. I'm going to give you a fair price, and I'm going to give you the best deal possible. So price, quality, and service and stuff all bundled in one.
That's so good. So good. Yeah. Well, as you've seen at the time of this recording, a lot of reasons that people have had to lack confidence in our product and our deals and our offerings. We got Trump's big, beautiful bill, a couple of things you mentioned. So I've seen, and sounds like maybe it didn't affect you as much, but yeah, I mean, when this first big, beautiful bill hit, I've been in solar 10 years myself. So I've seen plenty of ups and downs. But even me, I'm like, man, I wonder if this is like the hammer on the head. I wonder if this is going to end solar for good. And then sure enough, we got some, updates to it, and we're good for at least a few more years for the leases and all that. But how do you, I don't know how many reps you run and everything, Luke, but how do you, when the news like that hits, that changes are being made with government or whatever, do you have any ways that you've been able to help your team stay confident and stay confident yourself in, all the solar coaster, all the ups and downs that we go through?
Yeah. So I've been unaffected by anything that's happened. So what was it before the big, beautiful bill? It was the interest rates, right? The interest rates, the sky is falling. You saw the numbers dip across the United States. A couple companies went out of business because they weren't growing in enough to the attrition. And so I choose to not participate in what everybody else is doing. That's the first and foremost thing. And when we go back to the beginning of this conversation, you get to choose. Everybody gets to choose what they focus on. This isn't sticking your head in the sand and pretending like things don't exist, but this is making a decision to choose what to focus on. So there's always a silver lining in everything that happens. So there's going to be a silver lining out of this big, beautiful bill. There's going to be a silver lining in every single thing. This creates a lot of urgency. This has never been a better time to sell solar right now because we have this immense amount of urgency for people to make a decision to go solar. After this is all said and done, people are going to, even after all the taxes are stripped away, there's still going to be a value proposition there. We'll kind of figure it out. So we'll go from there. But to get out of the industry, and the space is like, so many deals can be had right now with the batteries and battery attachment and the solar and independence. Like, dude, this should be life-changing for everybody. And so what we're going to focus on is when we do our sales meetings, we have 128 people that work for our organization. But what we focus on is we don't focus on, this is what's happening. We focus on what's the silver lining? What's the solution? Yeah. Let's be in a good outcome frame. Let's not be in a problem frame, because whatever we think about is what we're going to bring about. And so if we're thinking about, what are we going to do? The sky is falling. Oh my gosh, I better start, stressing out and looking for other means and ways, and I better start looking for other opportunities. Then we're half 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And by the way, in the solar space, you've got to be both feet in, 100% committed for this to work. If you're 1 foot in, 1 foot out, you're going to piss all over the opportunity, dude. You're not going to give it 100%. You're always going to be looking for greener grass. We see this stuff all the time. You've seen it all the time. Been in the space 10 years. I see it all the time. I see reps coming in here looking for an easier, softer way because they're not fully committed to this process. They don't understand that there's any solar rep out there can make over 7 figures a year, right? Everybody can do that. If I can do it, anybody else can do that. But what level of certainty do they have, and where's their focus going? Their focus isn't on the opportunity. It's on all of this other crap that they can't control. And if we focus on the stuff we can't control, pretty soon we're in this anxiety state because we can't control all these things. Focus on the controllables. What's the controllable? What can you do right now to change your situation? What can you do right now to fix the situation? What can you do right now that will put you in a better position that your well-formed outcome? So I choose not to do that. And when I'm talking to my guys, we're not focusing on the big, beautiful bill. We're talking about urgency. There's never been a better time to sell solar than right now. Everybody should be leaning in with what's happening and what's going to happen. And we should be future pacing these people to what's going to happen if they don't make a decision today. If you don't make the decision today, this and this and this, these are the consequences that happen. If you do make a decision today, here's what you're going to receive. This is the value that you're going to receive. And so for me, seeing this and watching people kind of react, everybody's just reacting to this. And you saw this huge tumultuous stuff, especially if you looked online. You saw this crazy stuff out there and all these other things. The sky is falling and you just get the masses. Don't follow. The masses are asses, dude. Don't follow this, people. Create your own patterns, create your own way. This is what I do. I try to focus on this, focus on the controllables. Do I run into issues? Absolutely. Do I run into problems and challenges? Absolutely. But there's always going to be a silver lining. And what you'll also find is that sometimes the weak sales guys in the solar space need to see this and need to focus on this so they get out of here. And so it leaves more space for the people that are actually going in there to help people. And so sometimes it's going to have to happen. And so what we're going to focus on is how can we get better? How can we improve? How can we skill up? How can we make our skills so absolutely irreplaceable that it's unaffected by interest rates, policy, tax credits? How do you make yourself more worth to the game than what the game is going to be worth to you? So I'm always focusing on how to improve myself. It's a never ending, unceasingly study on my craft and getting better and improving. And so if everybody just focuses on that, focus on the controllable, what can you control? You can't control policy. I mean, how many people wrote letters to the senators and trying to get these things changed, and what did it make? Made absolutely no difference at all. And I appreciate these organizations going to fight for us, but dude, the average everyday rep just needs to focus on getting better. They're not dependent on tax credits. They're not dependent on interest rates. I've never been dependent on interest rates. I've never been dependent on tax credits. I've leveraged those. I've used those. Absolutely, 100%. But when interest rates shot up through the moon, dude, I was still doing 300 plus accounts a year. When interest rates were 8.99%, I didn't miss a beat. I didn't choose to focus on that. I choose to focus on the value proposition. What was the value proposition when interest rates went through the roof? Now I'm not focusing on the monthly to monthly payment. I'm focusing on the overall. And I'm going to tell people, hey, listen, you used to pay close to 30% extra on a loan. We're going to give you this loan without any of those dealer fees. You could pay this thing off whenever you wanted. I found the silver lining and I focused on it, and I didn't miss a beat in my sales. In my sales. Just like today, I was talking to, last week, I was talking to Sam Taggart. I'm like, I hit my golden door. He's like, yeah, it's getting harder now. I was like, who says who? Says who?
Yeah.
Who says that? Other people? I don't know why you're struggling. Is the struggle real? Yes, if you focus on it. But if you consistently improve every single day, you get better every single day, you study every single day, you hone in on your craft, you make yourself valuable to the marketplace, you'll be unaffected by these extenuating circumstances that we don't have any control over. I still have to work on other things. I'm not focused on the macro perspective. I don't have any control over policy. I'm not going to call Trump and tell him to change his bill, right? I'm not going to do any of these things. But what I can do is find the silver lining, exploit the silver lining, talk about the silver lining, and then talk about why this is important for every single customer to be able to make a decision. And by the way, my closing percentage has gone up exponentially since this bill passed. So since June, I'm usually hovering at about a 70% close ratio. Now it's closer to 85% because I'm leveraging and using the big, beautiful bill. This is awesome. I love telling the stories about it. I love being upfront and honest and telling people how it is and what's happening. And it's really allowed me to pivot myself into a higher closing percentage.
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's so much of it is just the story we tell ourselves is actually what's happening. And it's unfortunate to see guys just talk themselves out of it, tell them this story in their head that, oh, it's harder, people aren't listening, solar's not good anymore. And then they end up leaving. But the silver lining, like you talked about, is, hey, more deals for us. I mean, I'm fine. I'm in California. I'm fine with less reps in California. I'll take those deals that they would have got. So it's there's always going to be pros and cons.
California makes massive amount of sense because the energy rate is so ridiculously high. I'm working with 16 cents a kilowatt, dude. That's what we're working with here in Arizona. So you add a battery to the equation, you add solar to the equation. A lot of times you're going to save a little bit of money. You're not saving a whole lot of money, especially in SRP. Now, if you're APS, you save a little bit of money. But here's the thing, like you adapt, you figure out ways to make the value proposition make work. So I option close people on every single battery. I don't present it with the battery, but I tell them I option close them, and 99% of customers are going to choose the battery because of the way that you present it. So if they're looking at the monthly to monthly on the solar, it's going to be a little bit less. But if you add the battery into it, sometimes it's going to be a little bit more. But now you're leveraging and you're using the battery. The battery has its own value. So like a lot of reps will just show them the whole price and it's a little bit more, but they're not leveraging and using the battery for what it's made. That's a value proposition. The battery is a complete new, that's a game-changing difference for out here in Arizona, dude. It's a game-changing difference. And so California, if you get rid of some of these reps, like it's going to get rid of the weak ones. The people that weren't committed anyways are going to leave. They were already 1 foot in, 1 foot out. They were giving it half-hearted effort. They weren't 100% committed. They were looking around and seeing the low-level people, and everything's relative, so they're comparing themselves with other people. And here's the other thing. When people leave, they look at all the people not making money. They don't look at the people making money. Like, I choose to not study the people not making money. I want to study the people that are making money. What are they doing different? How are they acting? How are they breathing? What are they doing different? They're doing something different. And understand this, that like all we have to do is find somebody and model somebody that's doing something and that's very successful in the space and just model what they're doing. What is it that they're doing? All I need them to do is do what they're doing, and I can have the same level of success. It's a very easy model to duplicate, and it's not reinventing the wheel. It's finding somebody that's actually done something great and then modeling what they're doing.
Yeah, so good. Well, speaking of modeling, that's what I want to get into a little bit, Lucas. For people listening, I'm sure they would love to know, hey, how can I model? How can I be more like Luke? What are some things he's doing? They're really making the top rep in solar. So I guess before that, can you maybe, for those that maybe don't know you as well, what are some like numbers? How many golden door awards have you got? What are some kind of like, I don't know, accolades, numbers you've hit, just so guys know?
Right. So I sell over 300 counts a year, and it's usually over 2 megawatts every single year. So last year was a slow year for me. I was actually building a team, and I shifted from one company to another. It was really tumultuous last year, and so I still hit 225 accounts. This year I'm at close to 164 accounts. I've got over 2 megawatts. My system size has gone up pretty significantly, but every single year, my best year was 376 net accounts. So that was close to 3.5 megawatts. So year after year, I've consistently put in these numbers. The first year I got into solar was 2020. I started in May and I ended in January 1st. Nobody showed me anything. I watched a bunch of videos to kind of figure this thing out. I sold 117 accounts. It was close to 1 megawatt. So every year since then, I've been able to get the Golden Door Award, even after they keep raising the bar. So like I've consistently been able to. Yeah. And if you look at some of these numbers, there's one other guy, Ricardo Ricci, that's come close to me year after year. One year he beat me. I think he beat me 3 years ago. He beat me. It was bittersweet. I thought I was I was the number one rep, and this guy came out here and crushed me. So he's a good rep, dude. So whatever he's doing, he's done something badass. So he's the competition. So here's the other thing too: is I just look for people that are performing at the high level. The one ingredient with this is just that working hard. Like I won't be underworked. Like nobody will outwork me. So like I work my ass off to be able to get in that position. But also in working hard, you get feedback. People always feel like if they didn't get a deal in a week and they went hard, like they feel like they failed. That's not failure. You got a lot of feedback. So the whole week you got feedback on what worked and what doesn't work. And a lot of times, sometimes we get a lot of feedback on what doesn't work. So you shift your strategy, you come up with a new strategy, and then you implement that strategy to get different results. And you keep trying and keep trying. And if you're fully committed to a process, you don't give up. You continue to put one foot in front of the other. And so like this is the thing that we see in this industry is that people just want to give up. So I bring on brand new reps. I bring on reps that have never sold anything before, and I build them out. And so the common denominator on the people that don't work is they're committed at first, and then they don't see the results as quickly as they want. And then typically they're going to be looking around, looking at other people in the company or out of the company that aren't making money or why they've failed. And then they use that as an excuse rather than looking to the people that are successful and continuing to do what they do. So like consistently, I've got 1.5 megawatts and stuff, over 1.5 megawatts that I've sold this year. I'll end the year with, after my pipelines install, I'll end up with 2.5 megawatts this year.
Incredible. Yeah. And even more incredible.
It's easier than it's ever been.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, doing it in Arizona where Like I'm in California, people are getting their bills cut in half in most cases, and it's like people complain that it's too hard here. And it's like, yeah, you're talking like bill swaps and everything.
Half.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand. Like, here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. California, Arizona are pretty saturated markets. So you get a lot of guys. And so what customers are left with is a preconceived misconception.
Yeah.
So you come to their door, you knock on their door. Somebody's already knocked on their door and ruined it for you because they weren't professional and they sounded like the other 5 guys that came before them and they weren't interested. So it's about finding out why they weren't interested and then reevaluating this and coming up with something that's more creative than the last 6 or 7 guys that knocked on their door. Everybody, I believe everybody would do this if they just kind of understood how it worked, especially with the lease. I switched over to leases last year, probably October of last year. So leases a lot, dude. Like last October, I sold 54 accounts. Like I absolutely crushed it because now we're leveraging a lease agreement with a battery. Dude, leases are the easiest thing ever. Like you don't have to build up the value to show them a huge loan amount. Like it's so crazy easy, man. And like people don't understand how easy it is. Like if you can't, or a PPA, at least very similar. But if you can't convince people to you just got to switch up your strategy. So now we're just becoming essentially the new utility company with independence with the battery service. Like this should be relatively easy for everybody. A lot of my guys, they've only been selling leases. They don't know the challenge in selling loans. I didn't realize how much more challenging it is to sell loans versus a lease or a PPA. It's a lot more challenging. 2 objections you hear in the lease space. What happens if I move? This is the biggest concern. What happens if I move? So everybody has a concern. And the other concern is what happens if you guys go out of business? These are 2 legitimate concerns that people have. There's not, that's a huge loan amount. They don't get all cold feet because of loan amount. Yeah. People don't do that. Like it's crazy, man. It's crazy easy to be able to do this.
Yeah, so easy. Yeah. So let's hear. So if I'm like a new guy listening, what are maybe some things you do? Like you talk about, you work harder than anyone else. So what does it look like on a typical week? Are you still knocking your own door? Do you have a lot of people setting appointments for you, or what does that look like? What's kind of like your hours and the amount of the work ethic it takes to hit numbers like this?
Absolutely. So obviously to be able to hit my type of numbers, you're gonna have to have a squad under you. So like this isn't about, for me, I'm not getting guys and having the idea that I'm just gonna get these guys to set me appointments. Like no. This is a way that I'm able to leverage my position to make impact in people's lives. Yeah. So this is why I love taking reps that have never sold solar before and then giving them a system and a process, a vehicle that allows them to write their own paycheck. And so we'll build up, we'll have a transitional phase where they come in there, they'll set appointments, I'll train them. Yes, I still knock doors. Dude, I'm badass at knocking doors. I'm good at selling solar, but my bread and butter is knocking doors. I can't knock doors and sell the level I do. So I obviously take appointments, but I'm really good at knocking doors. Yeah. And so in that space, like what it is, it's going to be knocking doors. It's going to be setting appointments and then running appointments. So my preset calendar is preset every single week. And then in the spaces in between, I go out there and I hit some doors and I follow up and I do some training with the guys to be able to get them up to par. But the idea is if you're going to perform, if you're going to do big levels, if you're going to do big numbers, like you're going to have a huge team under you. Now, maybe 4 or 5 reps, but it's always transitioning these guys out. It's not just keeping them setters. Listen, I try and duplicate myself. So my process is like I bring a setter on. I'm like, this is where we're going to put you. So we're going to start you out as a setter, then we're going to start you out a closer, then we start building out your team under you. And so this is the blueprint. This is what you're going to do, and you're going to do this, and you're going to do this, and then you're going to have this. And so this is the desired outcome. This is what we see for you, and can you buy into this vision or this thought? And they're like, yes, I can do this. And so that's the position that we're in. So I'll have guys set up as setters, and they'll go with me on the close. They'll watch me close, and then when they're ready, they go out there and they close their own deals, and then we start building out their team underneath of them. So they start building out the team. We start helping them build the team. And we're always transitioning these guys out. So it's never the same setter. I wish I could keep all my closers as setters because they're badass. Finally, when they're good enough to set really good consultations, then that's when we have to transition them out. It's just part of the process. And so it's the ebb and flow of the solar space. It's like you're going to train some guy. He's finally going to get really good. We're setting really good consultations, but then you got to graduate this guy so that he's actually closing his own deals, making his own mark. And then the other
Yeah.
thing too is the focus isn't just on making money. So the focus, it can't be just on making money. It's a bigger purpose. So we're focusing on the bigger purpose, and everybody in the solar space should focus on a bigger purpose. If your focus is just to make a bunch of money, I don't know how long that's going to last, because once you get the money, then what do you do?
Yeah.
What do you do? Like, what's there to do? So you made $1 million, you made $2 million, so you got $1 million in your bank account. Well, then what? So is it 10 million? Is it 20 million? I mean, what's the monetary value that you're going to attach to it? Because what you'll find is that if you make all this money, you have no fulfillment that's attached to it. So for me, it's about it's the transformation in the lives that I get to impact, whether it's customers' lives or whether it's the lives of the people that will join my organization. So we focus on faith, family, fitness, fun, and finances. And so we get to these guys up to par. I like taking the beaten, broken people. I like taking the people that, have really struggled in life, and then be able to show them the transformative art of the people that have come before them, and my transformation and their transformation, and give them hope and stuff, so that they have something to strive for. And so when I look at it from that perspective, it gives me more fulfillment. It gives me more purpose and more meaning. If all I'm doing is going out there and selling customers solar, and that's all my job is, dude, that leads to no fulfillment. Fulfillment comes from me, from watching the guy come in and not knowing how to sell, and then transition and transform into somebody that knows how to effectively, ethically, morally sell people, help people, and then change the lives of other people. It's a ripple effect. So it's like that pond, it's that rock in the water and the ripple effect. But now it's like you drop that rock, then there's more rocks and more rocks around, and this is pretty soon it's all ripples. And so it's that sort of effect that happens. And by the way, people can be in the solar space, and you can find the fulfillment and purpose, whatever that fulfillment and purpose is. But at the end of the day, we're not selling solar. Our business is people business, whether it's customers or whether it's sales reps. We are in the people business. And once I get in the perspective of like, I'm here to transform lives and change lives. And now it's a higher meaning. It's a hierarchy of criteria. Now my criteria is much higher than what it would be if I'm just selling deals. By the way, if I'm just selling solar deals, dude, I'm going to get burnt out very quickly. But what it now comes down to is transforming and changing the lives of others. And I'm going to be honest with you, for the first 2 years of my career, I didn't do that. I had some setters, but I wasn't focused on the fulfillment. I was just like, I got to be the best. I want to be the best. I got to be the best. I got to want to be the best. And I didn't focus on really team building. I had a team. I transformed many lives and stuff in that process, but I didn't have the same level of impact that I get to have today. Because I took a look and I saw my life, and I'm like, this leads to no fulfillment, no purpose. I'm the number one solar rep, but what does that do? What did that do for me? It lasted 5 seconds. Like, I'm like, you know what actually lasts is the transformation of people, and showing them that life is much more, has much more value and much more meaning and much more depth when you're impacting the lives of others, and showing them how much fulfillment that you can have by doing this. And by the way, too, it doesn't just end at the reps. It also ends it also starts with the customers as well. So if you could take let's say you take someone that's on a fixed income, and now you just gave them certainty, you gave them peace of mind, you gave them freedom, you gave them a better quality life, you'd have to agree that their life's in a better position. It's not in a worse position. It's not in the same position. It's in a better position. And so, we focus on some of those things, and then we're open and honest about it, about honest with the customers about how their life is going to change, and we future pace them, and then we test it. These are some of the things and stuff that some sales reps don't do. I'm sure the number one solar reps do, and I'm sure they have more purpose and meaning out there. But for me, it's way more than just a platform to sell solar and do these things. And so it's more impactful and more fulfilling for me.
Yeah, that's so good. And it's true, though. Something I see from top guys a lot of times is they're so focused on their deals themselves that it's sometimes a challenge to build a team and build up other people because, number one is just like the time it takes to close all those deals. It's like, how do you pour into a team as well? So I'm curious with that, because that's actually something I've gone through a little bit this year myself. I've had some pretty solid setters, gotten a lot of good appointments. But as I'm trying to build up my team, I'm like, man, it's tough to find the time to go out and knock with other guys, to build my team, to do the recruiting, because it's like the 30 minutes I have between one appointment and the next, it's, you can only slam so much in there. So how have you figured out how to still produce at such a high level, and then also be able to build up your team and duplicate yourself? Do you have any advice on that?
Yeah, well, that's a good. You just announced like that's a luxury problem, by the way. That's your luxury problem because
Yeah.
it is it is a challenge. I would say it's a challenge, but you're exactly right. So what I do is it's very hard for me to focus on the entire team. So I build out the leaders, and then I pour into them, and then they pour into the guys. But I'll still work with some of the guys on the team. So like guys from my downline, guys from the other people's teams and stuff, I'm still going to work with. But as far as like going out and knocking with every single rep, dude, I don't have the bandwidth to be able to do that and do what I do. And so I build out and pour into the leaders. I make sure I have the good leaders and stuff on my team, and then making sure that I'm the one that does all the training. So we have 3 trainings a week. We have Monday, we have Wednesday, and we have Friday. So a lot of this is going to be mindset. Remember, we're selling abstract ideas. I could give you the tactics and skills on how to sell solar. I've got plenty of those, but really it's always about the mindset. You got to understand sales is 90% mental. So it's about taking the time and then still working with them when I can. If I have 2 hours in between appointments, I'm going to go out and I'm going to go choose one guy that might be struggling. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to go out there and work with him and have him shadow me while I knock. I'm also going to give him feedback. I'm going to watch him do some knocking. I'm going to be able to give him some good feedback with that as well. But it's like focusing on the leaders. In an organization, you got to focus on the leaders. Like 80% of the sales force or 20% of the sales force do 80% of the business.
Yeah.
And so, like, who are those people? And by the way, I'm unwilling to invest in people that don't invest in themselves. Like, I just had a guy, he came on, he'd been here for like 2 weeks, barely knocking any doors, and he was asking for my time. I'm like, no, I'm not going to give you my time. I'm not going to give you 100% until you give me 100%. Like, you're giving me 20%, dude. Like, no way. I'm not going to invest in you if you're not investing in yourself. That's going to be worthless. And any information I do give you is just going to be a moot point anyway. She's not going to apply it. So it's about spending the time and then finding spaces in the calendar. We can all find spaces in our calendar. Our calendar is never too busy. Now, when we come down to recruiting, training, and selling, this is the challenge that all of us face because we want to be able to recruit at high level. So it's being intentional about the recruiting process. Like, I'm intentional about recruiting. When someone gives me really stellar service, I'm going to actually position them and I'm going to offer them something, right? So finding those types of people that I get stellar service from, when I find those people, it's not about, going down to the local recovery house. Nothing wrong with those people, but those people are transitioning in their life. But it's not going down there and finding the guys who just got clean and trying to put them into a position where they're going to make a ton of money and seeing if they have the grit and the desire to do so. But it's about finding those people everyday people, every walk of life that are just give you some sort of stellar service. They go above and beyond. And those are the types of people that I want in my organization. The common denominators, I have 25 characteristics of people that I look for, 25 characteristics that I look for in the people that I recruit. And the one is just committed, disciplined, coachable. Some of the top 5 characteristics, and loyal, some of these characteristics and when we're intentional about finding these people, what you'll find is that these types of people just kind of come into your life. It's about finding those people that are going to be that are going to fit really well into the system and this process, and finding the common denominator upon the top performers. Those are the types of people that you want in your organization. We can also like, if I just get a guy that's just going to be a tourist, I call them tourists. They're just checking it out. They might make 1 or 2 deals. They're just tourists. We don't know the impact that we'll make in their life. So maybe it doesn't work out for them. But like what I found is that, maybe it didn't work out for them. And, part of me wants to talk a bunch of trash about these guys. But then the other part of me is like, maybe I made impact in their life. And I've seen the impact that's made in people's lives. Maybe they couldn't do this, but you planted some sort of a seed that's going to grow up and produce fruit as they get older. And it's something that we're trying to do on every single person that we come into contact with. And the organization kind of builds itself. Once you recruit people, they recruit people, and then it kind of builds its organization itself. Like someone that's done a really good job, the Solar Pros, obviously that organization is absolutely savage when it comes to recruiting, and people bought into their system and the processes. I mean, they've done something really, really well to be able to have an organization that grows and has the growth that they've had. So like, we just duplicate that. What do they do? Like, I'm always curious about it. I talk to Josh, like, hey, what did you do? How did you do it? Like what exactly is it that you did that have something that sparked, that made your organization grow to the extent that it's grown to?
Yeah. Yeah. So good. I love that. I mean, and it's about building up the leaders too. Cause, sometimes guys are just trying to pour into everyone. They haven't really found the leaders on their team. So I think sometimes I found you got to like empower guys to be the leaders. And I think that's a mistake I've made in my solar career sometimes, is just trying to pour into everybody, not empowering outs to lead other guys. And then I just end up kind of like not doing a great job with anybody. No one's really stepping up and leading others, stepping in the next spot. So do you have anything you do to kind of like empower guys to get them to believe that they can be the next leader? And then that way you're kind of delegating, other than you just try to run everything. How do you empower these guys to step into leadership positions?
Well, that's a great question. By the way, if you're listening to this, he's asking really good questions. This is someone that's obviously in the solar space. So these are great questions and the great concerns. So the first thing that I've done, I've been in the door-to-door space since 2008, been knocking doors since 2008. So the one thing that will happen to most people as they stay in a door-to-door space is that you start seeing the worst in people, right? So you start seeing the worst in people. And so you start looking for the negative. And obviously, if you're looking for the negative, you're going to find the negative. And so I had to shift my mindset. And find the good in people, find the good attributes, the good characteristics that these people have. So there's some people that are going to have a little bit better characteristics and attributes than the other people. And so once you find those people that have those common core ingredients that you're looking for, there's 5 that are non-negotiable, the characteristics. Once you find those people, like you latch on those people and you really invest in those people. And you don't spend your time. I've quit spending my time because 80% of my time used to be spent with the 80% lower class. And no matter how much I work with them, I would never see them rise above their own station in life. You just never see it. Those people aren't ambitious enough. They're not committed enough to be a top tier rep or to be actually a leader. And so now I've learned to identify people, and you identify people with their action. People can pay you lip service all the time. Because in the solar space, if we're salespeople, we pay people lip service. People pay people lip service and stuff. Some guys are professional lip service guys, right? So they tell you all this stuff and it sounds really good. You're like, but then you look at their action. What are they doing? Do I have to call and motivate this guy to get on the doors? Do I have to call and motivate this guy to take the lead? So you find those people that are willing and able and ambitious enough to kind of take that next step. And so once you find those people, you latch onto those people and you really invest hard in those people. And so I've got guys that have stepped up to the plate. And once they step up to the plate with their action, I see that. And then obviously those are the people that I'm going to invest in. And I invest in pretty heavily. So I'm like, what do I have to do to help you? Like, let's lay out a blueprint. Let's reverse engineer your goals. And let's see exactly how we can get you to the next level or where you want to go. And then I'm going to invest in those people. I'm going to invest heavily in those people. And then they're going to invest heavily in their guys. And then everything that I teach them, I obviously like, hey, listen, you're going to meet with all your guys. You're going to do this. And so you're going to meet with your guys. You're going to do the same thing I did for you. And there's going to have other leaders and stuff that are going to step up on there. And then you're going to invest in those leaders just like I did with you once you identify those leaders. And so it's about looking at their action and looking at identifying those people and then investing in those people that are actually going to step up to the plate.
Yeah.
So the other thing is investing all the time. Like, dude, we have a finite amount of time, especially if we're if you're still selling. And there's those really good leaders that aren't selling that have really good capacity for leading people. I'm a sales guy at heart. Like the leadership attributes that come to solar and the door space, like I didn't understand it. I thought everybody's like me. I'm just like, and if you're not like me, I completely discounted you. And then I understood, like after being here and seeing so thousands and thousands and thousands of people, that like I have a unique quality. This is not my ego talking. I just look, and based on my own experience, this is my story. So seeing some of the people that have these attributes and these characteristics, not everybody's going to have it. And they can't be measured at the same standard that I measure myself at. So I can't measure the guys to my standard. Are there guys that are actually going out there and go-getters? If you find those guys that are go-getters, they're knocking doors, you don't have to get on them. If you find those guys that are stepping up in leadership roles and helping guys and performing at a high level and closing at a high level, like that's the diamond in the rough, right? Those are the diamonds that you've got to really concentrate on, focus on. And by the way, some of us, I would say about 5%, maybe we talk about the 1% of the population are like that, but there's a top 5, there's a 10%, there's a 5%, and there's a 1%. If you find the 1%, dude, you do whatever to keep those guys. If you find the 5%, you do whatever to keep those guys. If you find the 10%, you want to really try hard to retain those guys because those are your future leaders. And also, you've got to paint a picture. So you've got to have a vision that's big enough to fit their vision underneath there. If your vision isn't big enough to fit their vision underneath there, they're going to leave so that they can actually have the manifestation of their vision. And so it's about having a vision big enough that will have the umbrella that all those guys can fit their vision in there as well. and creating a space like that and creating a vision of what's possible and what we're doing and creating some sort of a mission. So often, guys, if guys are just selling solar and that's all their life is, man, they're going to get burnt out and they're not going to be truly committed to this process. So it's about getting them to buy in whatever vision and stuff that you have. And so my vision is impacting the lives of others for good, being a force for good, actually going in there and training people to be more valuable to the marketplace and not being dependent on policy or not being dependent on, interest rates or whatever and stuff that might affect us. They might affect us. It might not. I don't think it will. I think we look for the silver linings, just like what we went back to in the beginning of the conversation, is we focus on some of those things. But creating a vision that allows other people to have their vision inside your vision. If your vision is finite, it's very limited, and someone has a bigger vision than you, then they're going to leave you because they're going to need to be able to make that vision manifest. And so creating some sort of a vision that's big enough to encompass everybody else's vision and still be able to get theirs and have yours too.
Yeah. So good. So good. Love that. That's fire. And well, before we start wrapping up here, Luke, I wanted to touch on, you're obviously a master sales guy. And so maybe some stuff just to start wrapping up here on how guys can just close the maximum amount of deals. We got a lot of urgency with this bill. So just touching on some maybe tactical things, some sales stuff. What are some ways you've been able to, you said you've seen an increase in your sales. So what are some ways you've leveraged to increase urgency or things you've done different to close even more deals this year?
Good question. So if you went to the sales summit for Sam Taggart, there's one main important part about my equation, and it's going to be, and I could go deep. We could go deep into the stuff that I do. Yeah. The level of close, I go way past just reading sales books. It's way more deep. It's meta models. It's embedded commands. I get all of these things and stuff that I could give you guys. But the main important part about any sort of presentation is not relying on numbers to sell your deal. Remember, this is abstract ideas. So abstract means it's theoretical, but you can't paint a real good picture. It's not like solar's not sexy. People aren't buying solar because it's a sexy thing to have on the roof. Nobody's doing that, right? It's not like a car or any other item. So you're selling them abstract ideas, which is the stuff that we talked about: freedom, control, quality of life, certainty. These are the things that we're selling these people. So the best way to deliver information that I have always found is doing it in a story mode. So if I'm going to create, the first thing you're going to do is when you're inside of any sales presentation is create the urgency. Create the urgency. Now, if you're telling a story, you're telling a story about what's happening with the big, beautiful bill and it passing. And you got to tell stories about other people freaking out. There are people freaking out, especially solar people freaking out about this big, beautiful bill. So I'm going to create and I'm going to paint a picture of the urgency. And that's going to be leveraged from the very beginning. So at the end, it's not like I'm pushing them, but they understand that if they don't do this today, they're going to miss out, and it's going to cost them tens of thousands of additional dollars. So I'm creating the story with a story mode, right? Now, once you identify the customer's personality type, then what we're going to do is we're going to relate a story that's going to actually apply to them. And so some sort of a story about somebody like them. Like if you're an engineer, hey, listen, I have this engineer. He loves spreadsheets, graphs, and maps. These are the things that he really resonated on. And let's say he had an internal model, not an external model, which is he comes to the conclusion himself. And he could not be convinced by our words. But once he did his research and he did his spreadsheets, graphs, and maps, he came to the conclusion this didn't require a scientific calculator. All it required was a simple subtraction method. Here was his utility bill right here, and here's his new utility bill right here. So what he found is that this was the obvious decision to make because he wanted certainty, he wanted freedom, he wanted flexibility, and he wanted to shore up the leak in his finances, which is why he made this decision. Now, I don't know if you are like him, but I know for a fact that this guy really wanted to be able to make this decision because of the spreadsheets, graphs, and maps all correlated to him making this decision. And so like getting to know your customers and then leveraging it through. There's a process that I do on every single person. The first is going to be able to do the rapport, but we're not just rapport. People mistake rapport with getting them to like you. Well, how do you get people to like you? It isn't because you have, like you have that. Oh, I have that. It's mirror and matching the customer, even in their internal breathing. But then after you're done doing the rapport, you're gaining all of the stuff they're telling you or giving you the nuggets on specifics on how to be able to serve this customer at the highest level. You're finding what is their buying tendencies. And then you create this through the story mode, all my entire presentation, story. I'm going to be leveraging the story about why people are doing this, rising utility rates, the solar tax credits are going away, the data centers, all of these other things. I'm going to be leveraging this sense of urgency that are laced with problems if they don't make a decision to do this. Then I come in with the solution. And I'm going to once again leverage this with story modes. Listen, if you sell solar, you have tons of stories. You have stories about people making this decision. Make sure that you're remembering those and you're bringing those up with the client that you're with. Stories sell, salesmen tell. Always leverage and use stories. Always. And by the way, we put ourselves in the character stories. And by the way, telling stories is hypnotic. It puts people in a trance state. People will immediately get themselves in a trance state. Trance state means they're going to put themselves in the character shoes, and they're going to apply all of the stuff that you gave them internally, right? Without delivering the information that you know you're going to reach their unconscious and their consciousness. And so now we're leveraging that and we're using that as throughout the story mode. Then we're coming in with the solution. And then we're coming in with why to do this and why not to do this. And we're doing the close. And there's various different closes. But if you've done a really good presentation and you've really done really well on knowing who your customer was and being able to leverage this, then the close is just the natural next step. You assume the close. You don't pause. You assume the close with certainty and confidence. And you assume the close all the way to the end, where you ask them, oh, the first thing we have to do, you tell them the process. And then what you're doing is like, hey, all we have to do is we have to just make sure your roof, we have to make sure that you own the house. We have to make sure that you pass a FICO score check, make sure you don't have any warrants for your arrest, right? Just going to lighten it up. And then immediately you ask for their date of birth. You don't pause. After they laugh, you ask their information and then you start closing from there. And then you go through the entire contract. Go through every single word, not every single word, but every single subtitle of the contract, which I do on every single customer, which leaves you with a low cancellation rate, right? And then you close the deal. And then you ask them at the end, what are you most excited about to go solar with? Why did you make this decision to do this? And then they're going to sell you on why they made a decision to do this. At that point, you're not selling anything. They're selling you on why they made this decision, and they're justifying it. People always buy emotionally, even if they're that rigid engineer type. And we all know those rigid engineer type. They're unemotional. They're too smart for solar a lot of times, but they're always going to buy emotionally and then they'll justify logically. This is just the way human beings are. And in the solar space, if we're selling abstract ideas, you better make sure that you have some sort of emotional attachment. This is why people that launch into like, hey, I'm just going to show them it's a lower bill. But people don't go solar. It's crazy. If everybody bought logically, everybody would buy solar. Everybody. If they bought logically. We should just be able to go to their door and say, hey, listen, this is your current bill. Here's your new bill. Do you guys want to do it? They should say yes if they bought logically. People don't buy logically. They justify logically. They're going to buy emotionally. And it's the emotional roller coaster. By the way, stories is the best way to get people bought in emotionally. Like I've never found a better way. And you look at it in your own life. If you're watching this, you know from your own personal life that when someone tells you a story, we get engaged. It's like story time. Let's go. Let them sit down for a story. We're not bored. Now, if you're just giving a bunch of information, dude, you're like, dude, when can I get rid of this guy? Like if anybody just gives you that information, you're like, dude, I got to get rid of this guy. This guy's annoying, man. This guy's so boring. But if you leverage some sort of a story, an actual story that actually happened, and one of your client that you've met or somebody that's very similar to the current client that you're sitting with, you're going to have much greater traction.
Yeah, so true. So true. Love that. And it's so important, even in doing this podcast, Luke, it's like I've had people come on that talk about like solar products, this and that. And if I can't get them to like, if I can't get them to like talk about some stories or, like do something, then no one's listening to that podcast. So I think it applies in so many different areas. If you can't get them bought in emotionally, so tough to sell this thing and so hard to get people bought in. And I think what I found, if you don't do that, then they're just going to cancel after, because if it's just all logic, they're not going to remember that emotional high, and it's just going to lead to a cancel.
That's right.
So yeah. Love that. And yeah, you touched on so many good things there. But speaking of cancels, just to kind of wrap up here, Luke, I know you talked about some things like going through the contract, each section of it. But is there anything else you do to like button up the deal, or maybe after the fact, after you've sold them, to actually get the thing to the roof? Because it's one thing to sell it, but so many guys have a hard time getting these things to the roof. So what's your biggest tips for that?
Yeah. So the worst part of the equation is because there's a ton of guys from my company that sell lights out, bro. But then you look at the cancellation rate, you're like, dude, you got to change something. Yeah. So like I got a guy that sold almost as many deals as I have this year, but he's got a 60% cancellation ratio, bro. I'm like, what's going on here? I'll tell you the number one reason why people are going to cancel. they feel like you omitted something or you lied about something, that's going to immediately cancel that deal. It doesn't matter if 99% of the presentation you were honest. You lied about one little tiny thing and they found out about it, these people are going to cancel, which is exclusively why I go through the entire contract with everybody. I don't want to leave any ambiguity about what's going to happen. You got to understand, most customers, even if they've met with solar people before, solar is like a brand new thing to them. This is a lot of information that we're delivering very quickly. So a lot of these times, these people are going to get cold feet, or they're going to talk to somebody that gives them some bad information. Or the worst part is, like, you just go through and they're just one of those customers that clicks on everything, sign, without going through those things. And listen, you can, when we talk about silver lining, our contracts, whatever contract you're selling has a silver lining. This is for your protection. This is for your protection. This is for your protection. This is for us. This is for us. And like being open and honest about that. And it's selling with integrity is being open and honest and transparent about the contract and what this looks like. So often you see those people that are scared of the contract. They're scared because there's something in there that doesn't feel good or doesn't look good. Like, if there's something in there that doesn't feel good or look good, make sure that you internalize this so it does look good, or at least bring it up. At least bring it up and talk to them about it. So the first thing is selling with integrity. If you lied at all, if there was one even little tiny white lie, and these people find out about it, they're going to cancel every single time. So it's allowed me to have I think my cancellation rate this year is 25%. Last year was like 22%. The year before was 20%. Had a little bit higher cancels this year. And I don't know what it is with the leases. People just get cold feet. But the other really important part about this, maybe you assume the sale. Maybe they were like a sheep type of personality, and you just led them around. You just led them along, and they're going to cancel. So you feel like you kind of push them a little bit, right? I don't push people. I assume the sale. So I don't push. I assume. But let's just say that I assumed really well on somebody, and they just didn't say no, and they let me go through it. At the end of the presentation, I will tell them that question that I gave you initially, like, hey, what are you most excited about with your solar system? And they're going to tell me. I'm just like, why did you make this decision to do this today? And then you shut up. And then they tell you reasons. Now, here's the thing. You shut up. And then you let them go on. And then you still stand there. If they haven't said all of the things and stuff that you made a point to talk about, you just stand there. And then they'll keep looking, and they'll keep searching, and they'll keep looking. They'll look up. They'll do eye accessing cues. You see them looking up and trying to remember this stuff, whether they're auditory doing this stuff to themselves. You see them start doing these things. And so, like, and if they're really struggling on that reasons, like, you got to go back. You're like, no, wait a second here. Like, that's not good enough reason. Like, you guys are doing this for 25 years. That's a long time. I want to tell you, this is a very long time for you guys. So let's just take a minute, and I want to really, truly figure out why you made this decision to do this today. If they're telling you because you made me, dude, you got some work to do. You're going to go back to the table. You're going to sit down there. You go, no. I'm sorry you felt like that, but let's really find out exactly why you made the decision to do this today. And you force them to tell you why. Dude, you'll never lose the sale at the end. You won't lose it. You won't, but people get scared. They just want to scurry out of there onto the next appointment. Dude, by the way, too, sometimes my appointments are back to back to back. Dude, I'm not concerned about my next appointment. I'm going to be where my feet are at, and I'm going to be there, and I'm going to be concentrating and focusing on them. Because believe me, I've gotten to like, I got to hurry up and get through this, and I'm on to the next customer, and then I piss all over that one as well. So I'm going to sit there and I'm going to ask them. I'm going to make them sell me. Now, sometimes people will struggle, and they don't remember it. They can't list all of the reasons. And I'll say, well, what about this? What about the whole home energy independence the battery gives you? What about the next time your power goes out, you still have power on? Was that a benefit that really kind of pushed you to make this decision today? What about that? What about saving, $64,000 in 25 years? Was this a motivating factor? What about being able to use your thermostat when and how you want without feeling like you're going to get penalized for doing that? Was this an ancillary benefit? Okay, good. What about the peace of mind, the predictability? What about having that exact same bill in January as it is in July without having those huge spikes? Was that a benefit for you? Okay, so let me just understand. So let's just recap once again why you made the decision to do this. And then you go through it with them. What people are going to remember the first 30 seconds and the last 30 seconds that you talk to them. They're not going to remember any of that other stuff. People never remember how much they're going to pay or anything like that, dude. Like, you got to understand, people's attention span, very short-lived. They're going to remember some stuff that you might accentuate. You might anchor them to a couple of those things in there. But for the majority, they're going to remember the first 30 seconds and the last 30 seconds. And so you want to be able to point out all of the reasons they made the decision to go solar. This wasn't about me making you. You made the decision to go solar for this, this, and this. So I don't do that on every single customer, but I do that on the shaky ones. Yeah. I do that on the ones where I felt like I just assumed the way. They never told me no. I was too big of a personality and never told me no. They never threw me any objections. And by the way, everybody on the call, we live in objections. I love objections. Please tell me an objection. Yeah. If someone gives you an objection, that's your blueprint to sell them, right? So they're going to have some hesitancy and some objections. All you have to do is answer the objection. They give you the blueprint. Answer, give me the peace of mind of this objection, and I'll move forward. Like, the objections, don't shy away from objections. Don't like get scared that they might give you an objection. Pull the objections out, get them out on the table, and then answer them, and then reframe those objections into assets. And those people will always make a decision to go solar. It's the ones that aren't telling you the objections that are the problem, because they're keeping their cards close and they don't want to tell you what the objection is because they're afraid that you might answer it, and then they'll be forced to make a decision to do this. So I could go all day for tactics and skills and whatnot. The other thing is that everybody on the call, like, hey, listen, dude, be a professional. Pride yourself on being a professional. If you don't know a lot about solar, that's okay. You can learn a lot about solar. It's not just about solar. Learn about people. Once you understand people and their motivations and why they make decisions, like, all you have to do is understand that. If we're selling abstract ideas, get to understand people's internal motivation. If you can understand their internal motivation, sales will be easy and effortless. And I find sales easy and effortless. It's easy and effortless for me to go into a house. Doesn't matter how I'm feeling. Doesn't matter what the state I'm in. When I go into a house, I'm immediately on, because it's unconscious competence. And now it's unconscious mastery, because I can actually teach this and duplicate this for people. If you're curious, like, hey, how do I get better? Model people that are proven practices. Go out there and study books. Always be reading books. Like, I'm at 53 books this year. My reading has allowed me to be in the position that I'm in, has given me a wealth of knowledge. I've got a university's education without paying for it. It's on a book. It costs me 11 or 12 bucks. And understanding, if you're watching this solar podcast, that tells you a lot about these people that are watching this podcast. They're interested in their own education. They're interested to see people and hear about people that are successful. They're interested in how to be better. If you're interested on how to be better, takes that next step. And make sure that you're investing in yourself. Read a book. Read a book on sales. Read a book on understanding people. Read a book on psychology. Read a book on anchoring people and motivations and internal states and stuff to be able to get people to make a decision to go solar. I've never found a better way to further my education than reading a book and doing some online studying. And believe me, most of our process that we have today, we have a mentor that takes you through this process, shows you how to knock doors, shows you how to close deals, and then shows you how to team build. When I got into spaces during COVID, everything was shut down. I had to figure everything out myself. I was already a badass door knocker because I was the top of the industry in alarm space. But coming into the solar space and not knowing even how solar worked, not knowing what a red line was, not knowing any of these things, and still being able to sell lights out, speaks to the volume of selling abstract ideas, which is what solar is. It's an abstract idea that we're selling. And so understanding that and knowing that we're not selling like a real product, but we're selling an idea or a concept to people, you get really good at selling ideas and concepts to people. And that's what solar space is.
Yeah. Wow. So many good things. Thank you, Luke. And then when you say read books, do you actually read? Or are you more like an audiobook guy? Do you listen to them?
Dude, I read and I listen to audiobooks.
Yeah, both.
That's
okay.
We have 53 books or something this year. I read and I listen. Listen, if you're in your car and you do it, I live in the Phoenix market, so this is a huge area geographically. So everywhere I go is like 20 to 30 minutes. So I'm always listening to books. Very rare I'll listen to some music, but I'm always going to be listening to books. So I'm listening to books, and then I'm also reading books. So I read. I make it what's called a mini habit. I learned this from Michael O'Donnell, actually Savage. So I heard a podcast from him and Sam, and he was talking about a book called Mini Habits. This was years and years ago, and that Mini Habits book. What he said is like the Mini Habits book is predicated upon making a goal so easy it's like almost impossible to not do. And so one of the goals was to read 2 pages a day. I was already an avid reader before that. So my goal is to read 2 pages a day. But dude, I never just read 2 pages. It's usually like 20 pages. But all the goal is to read 2 pages a day. So I have cues, habits that I do. When I get into bed, that's my reading time, right? So I get into bed, it's my reading time. I'm going to read 2 pages a day. Usually I'll skim through about 20 pages or maybe 30 pages of the book. And then when I'm driving my car, it's university education on wheels. So like I'm going to listen to audiobooks. And it's not specific to sales. A lot of it is sales books, but I'm going to listen to psychology books. I'm listening to NLP books. Like I've really gained, especially this year, my education has gone up exponentially. Every year I've been in solar, my sales skills have compounded, gotten better and better and better and better and better and better. It wasn't like that in the alarm space. I tiered out. But every single year that I've been in the solar space, I've improved every single year, and at exponential rates too. Like the stuff I know today versus the stuff I knew 5 years ago is like astronomically more than what I knew 5 years ago. It's crazy. So all of the stuff I've learned, I'll get specific about one actual genre of books, and then I'll listen to that, and then I'll read it, and I'll listen to it, and I'll read it, and I'll listen to it, read it, until I have all the information about that book that I needed to know, all about that genre I needed to know.
Yeah. Wow. Such a nugget. And yeah, for anyone listening, if you're not, I mean, Luke, he came in, he did 100 plus deals in his first 6 months, and he's still devouring books at this level, still reading, still learning. So if that's not eye-opening for some guys, I don't know what is, because you get some guys, they do 10 deals in a month. They're feeling good about themselves, like they never need to do a training again. So I think that's one of the big secrets in life, is just constantly learning, constantly being hungry. And then I would say that's a very common denominating factor I've seen in top producers and guys like yourself. So Luke, thank you so much for coming on today. And before we end this, if guys want to reach out and hear more or look into what you're doing, what's the best way to reach out to you?
My Instagram, Luke Ward Official, is what my Instagram is, Luke Ward Official. They can reach out to me on there. So you can always send me a DM. I monitor this pretty regular basis. And so I also produce, I have a guy that produces my content. So I'm always showing door tactics and skills. And so it's free stuff. So if you can find free stuff that just makes you a better person, I would just be able to latch onto it. Always send me a DM on there. I usually respond. Maybe it takes me like 2 or 3 days and stuff, but I always give you a response.
Yeah. Awesome. So yeah, go shoot Luke a follow. He's got some greats. I even saw some live footage he got on there, some knocking content. So love seeing that. Very engaging, very entertaining. And not last question before we wrap up, Luke, maybe there's one rep who's struggling, who is question if they should continue in solar. What would you tell that rep today if you had to offer him one piece of advice?
Well, if you've listened to this entire podcast, dude, you have what it takes.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, most guys, the attention span lasts for like 2 minutes, sometimes 20 seconds. So if you've listened to this entire podcast, like, you have what it takes. You have the discipline, you have the commitment. And if you don't have discipline and commitment, these are characteristics that you could foster, that you could train. You have a growth mindset. Listen, if I can do this, you could do this. If you know my backstory is I had made a bunch of terrible decisions. And one way I made a decision that not ever again was I going to act like this or do like this, and I was going to be something more. And so, like, if you've watched this all the way through, you have what it takes. It's been 45 minutes or an hour or whatever it's been. You have what it takes. If you could sit here and listen to this for 45 minutes or an hour, you have what it takes. And by the way, don't look at the people that are underperforming. Look at the people that are performing. You have one guy in the office, or maybe you have somebody in the nation that you can look to. Look to those people. Model those people. Don't hang around with the people that aren't producing and that'll make you feel good about yourself. Discomfort, we need to have discomfort, because if we're not comfortable, a lot of times people will seek comfort. That discomfort, there's a reason for that discomfort, because it's telling you that you're made for so much more. You have potential in you, and you're squandering that by looking to other people that are underperforming just like yourself. You don't have to underperform any longer. You can model proven practices. You can you can read books, you can study, you can train, you can put one foot in front of the other, and you can actually be able to do this. I firmly believe that anybody can make it 7 figures in the solar space. I firmly believe this. I have a growth mindset. It doesn't matter our station in life, doesn't matter if they're an introvert or extrovert, doesn't matter what characteristics that we have. Everything can be fostered and trained. And I firmly believe that everybody can do this. So remember the key ingredient to this. You have to have more certainty than the uncertainty. And when we talk about confidence, confidence comes from certainty. If you're more certain about this value proposition than what everybody else is telling you or what you're seeing, you're going to be successful at this. If you look at people that changed the world, a lot of times they were ridiculed. And people talk shit about those people, but they had more certainty than everyone else. People are, yeah, right, you're not going to accomplish this, so you're not going to do this. Now, if they would have listened to those people and they would have sought other people that agreed with the other people, the dream stealers, or the limiting beliefs, and they would have latched on those limiting beliefs, they never would have done anything.
Are you wondering how you're going to get your Christmas gifts this year? Then how about you join us on the next Blitz we have coming up on November 14th through the 22nd. Pay for all your Christmas gifts plus some, and join the top performers in solar, including myself, Golden Door Award winners, and people who have 1,000 plus career installs in solar. Click the link below. Spots are very limited, 20 spots available. They're going to fill up fast. We hope to see you there. Apply now.
It's the people that have certainty about their position. I have certainty about solar. If you don't have certainty about solar, believe that I have certainty about solar. This is universally, it's ecological. It's good for everybody. It's good for us, good for the customer, good for the utility company. We create entire industries. This isn't about you making money. This is about how many other people are needed to fulfill your solar deal. Think about the installers that are providing for their families with good paying jobs. Think about the account managers that we're supplying jobs to. Think about the supply chains, the supply houses that are actually having jobs because of what we do. We are the tip of the spear. We make massive impact. Don't think of yourself as small. Think of yourself as great. Understand and know that we all have the capacity to make massive changes in this world. Whether you're helping somebody save money and have predictability and certainty, whether you're helping somebody have a good paying job to support their families because they're on these roofs and they're installing solar systems, whether you're helping somebody else, an account manager, have a good paying job that they can go back to their families, they can be proud of what they're doing, knowing and understanding that they're our helpers and they're able to help us do our job even better. So people don't understand the impact that solar people make. We make massive impact. Be bought into making massive impact. Know and understand that you can have fulfillment and purpose and meaning in your life by selling solar, by changing, evolving, and transforming your own life. This is the greatest thing that you'll ever be able to do in your entire life because of the transformation that takes place and because of the impact that each one of us make. A lot of times solar reps feel like we're just selling solar. No. We're not just selling solar. We're making impact in the lives of thousands of others, if not millions of others, by what we do every single day. Every single door you knock leads to somebody making a paycheck at home that weren't responsible, didn't have the tenacity and the grit to be able to go out there and knock doors. So I would challenge you to find deeper meaning, to find deeper purpose in what you're doing. Find the purpose, find the meaning, get on fire about it, get passionate about it, get enthusiastic about it, and you will eventually be able to overcome whatever hurdles or obstacles that you have today.
Woo, wow, man, bringing the heat. I think I'm just going to turn this on during my next sales correlation. Get guys fired up. I'm like ready to go knock some doors right now. But Luke, appreciate you so much, brother. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for bringing the heat for us, getting us fired up. And if you're not motivated after that, I don't know what to tell you. But thank you again, Luke. Hopefully we can do this in the future. And I know we'll be seeing you on the stage at Door-to-Door Con, all these events. So make sure to go there and see Luke on stage and hang out with all of us there. But yeah, appreciate you, Luke. And everyone go shoot him a follow on Instagram, send him a message, let him know you appreciate him coming on the show today. And yeah, hopefully we can do this again soon. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you guys.